From an abandoned Japanese island that hides a dark and turbulent history behind crumbling walls, to a tall abandoned skyscraper in Venezuela that was once inhabited by around 5,000 squatters, in this video, we take a look at the biggest abandoned megaprojects in the world. We start with the Wonderland amusement park. Located just a 20-minute drive from the Chinese capital, Beijing, Wonderland Amusement Park was intended to be the largest amusement park in Asia. Plans for it were drawn up in the early 1990s. The park would cover an area of 50 hectares on an undeveloped cornfield. For comparison, it would be about the same size as the famous Tokyo Disneyland in Japan. Chinese developer Rainwood Group hoped Wonderland would become the company's flagship project. In order for the estate to attract millions of visitors from the nearby megacity, construction began on the Wonderland amusement park in the 1990s. The plan was to create a Disneyland-themed amusement park with the iconic centerpiece of the castle and surrounding medieval buildings and walls. Unfortunately, in 1998, in the middle of the construction of Wonderland, all work on the site was suddenly stopped and the park was abandoned. The locals began to come up with theories as to why the huge project suddenly came to a complete halt. Some stories suggested that the location of the park was cursed, while according to some rumors, a mass grave was discovered during construction. But despite all these rumors, the truth was much simpler and straightforward. After financial disagreements with the local authorities and farmers who had been working on the site prior to construction, the entire project was put on hold. The developers were unable to reach a consensus with the residents on property prices and unfortunately had to abandon the project as negotiations stalled. The project would have eradicated the livelihoods of farmers and their families, and they were not willing to just give up their only source of income. As Rainwood and all of its employees left the construction site in a hurry, the half-finished attractions of the estate simply fell apart and nature slowly took over. The Memphis Pyramid project was conceptualized by Mark Hartz in the hopes of creating a landmark that would represent the city of Memphis to the rest of the world. His original plan was to create 3 pyramids located along the Mississippi River, mirroring the famous pyramid complex at Giza, each built to 2/3 of their original size and resembling the exact same positions of their Egyptian counterparts. However, this ambitious plan did not come to fruition until the 1980s when Mark Hart's son, John Hartz, revived the idea. The new proposal rejected the 3-pyramid complex in exchange for a single main pyramid that would be 98 meters high and have a base of 180 meters, making it one of the largest pyramids in the world. After John Tigret adapted the concept, construction began on the Memphis Pyramid in September 1989. Many of the planned amenities that were to be built in the building were eventually scrapped due to financial difficulties, including a music museum, a radio station, an observation deck, an open-air amusement park, and the Hard Rock Cafe. When the Pyramid of Memphis opened in 1991, it was used as a basketball arena with more than 21,000 guests attending the opening event. The venue was also used for basketball tournaments, concerts, and even a boxing match between Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson, which then became the highest-grossing boxing event in history. However, the Memphis Pyramid had no permanent tenant to ensure its long-term profitability. In 2001, the city of Memphis tried to move an NBA team to the city, and the Memphis Pyramid served as their home arena. The city spent an estimated $7 million to upgrade the facility to make it a suitable venue for the Memphis Grizzlies, but after only 3 years, they left to move to the newer and more modern FedEx Forum, which opened in 2004. Due to the city's contract with the Grizzlies, the pyramid could only be used with the team's permission, leaving it mostly abandoned. In recent years, the Memphis Pyramid has found new life as an outdoor and retail destination. In 2015, the American retailer Bass Pro Shops leased the pyramid for 55 years to convert it into one giant store. Today, the Memphis Pyramid is home to the largest professional bass shop in the world, with an archery and shooting range and even a laser arcade. The new tenant of the pyramid has been a huge success at the location, with 3 million visitors in its first year. Despite being empty for a long time, the Pyramid of Memphis has been given a new lease of life. On Hashima Island, Nagasaki, Japan, 15 kilometers southwest of the city, lies a small island which is only 500 meters in diameter at its longest point. Seemingly frozen in time, Hashima Island is home to dozens of concrete buildings, breakwaters, and ruins. Built at the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries, Hashima Island is almost perfectly preserved by its isolation, and it is a symbol of Japan's rapid industrialization and its dark history, hidden behind the walls of this desolate place. Hashima was first inhabited in 1887, when a significant amount of undersea coal was discovered in the area. Mitsubishi then bought the island and started building a coal mine with seawalls that surrounded the entire island and protected it from typhoons. By 1916, the company had begun building many different amenities for the growing number of workers living on the island. They built a 2-story, a 7-residential building and a school, a hospital, a community center, and even entertainment facilities such as a cinema, swimming pool, and many different shops. In 1959, the island reached its peak population of 5,300 people living on this small plot of land. However, in the late 1960s, oil quickly replaced coal as the main source of energy in Japan. For this reason, many coal mines across the country were forced to close, and the Hashima coal plant and its residents began to weaken. After most of the residents left, Mitsubishi officially ceased operations as the island slowly receded. The island existed as a coal town for the next 30 years, but without a single permanent resident. The industrial-era buildings began to slowly crumble as nature reclaimed the island. By 2002, Mitsubishi had relinquished ownership of the island and transferred it to the city of Takashima, and then finally to the city of Nagasaki. Hashima Island soon became the focus of curious explorers who wanted to discover the history of the island and its abandoned buildings. So, in 2005, the city of Nagasaki reopened access to the island for journalists. Just a few years later, the island also became accessible to the general public and now serves as a popular tourist destination. In the same year, the Japanese government launched an effort to have Hashima Island listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, citing the importance of the island's historic ruins and well-preserved architecture. However, the move was quickly opposed by both North and South Korean governments due to the island's dark history, which Japan deliberately left out of UNESCO's application. Unbeknownst to most people, from the 1930s to the end of World War II, Hashima Island became the site of countless human rights abuses in which Korean and Chinese prisoners of war were forced to work in extremely harsh conditions. According to very rough estimates, between 130 and 1,300 forced laborers lost their lives on the island due to exhaustion, malnutrition, and poor working conditions. Despite Korea's opposition to UNESCO's candidacy, Hashima Island is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is visited by thousands of tourists every year. As one of the first airports in the German capital, Berlin Tempelhof is a place that has witnessed and experienced many of the country's most historic moments. Officially designated as an airport in 1923, Berlin Tempelhof served as the area's main and only air traffic hub. In the late 1930s, Berlin's Tempelhof quickly became one of the busiest airports in the world thanks to its proximity to the German capital. After the fall of the Berlin Wall and the reunification of Germany in 1989, Berlin's Tempelhof continued to function as a regular commercial airport until a resolution of the city of Berlin was announced in 1996 that would ultimately lead to the closure of the airport. Unlike the other projects featured in this film, Berlin's Tempelhof actually served its purpose and was only abandoned due to its age as a way to concentrate all of the city's domestic and international air traffic into one central airport. Tempelhof and the neighboring Tegel Airport were to be closed and replaced by the new Berlin-Brandenburg Airport. Many Berliners rejected this decision, and there was even a referendum on keeping the airport open. The referendum ultimately failed, and the last commercial flight from Berlin Tempelhof took off on October 30, 2008. Subsequently, the city of Berlin announced that it would transform the old Berlin Tempelhof Airport into a city park with a budget of 60 million euros. The event, which was attended by thousands of people, opened the so-called Hofrevolt Temple, which is now the world's largest inner-city open space with a total area of 380 hectares. even surpassing New York City's famous Central Park. Some of the history of the place can still be seen today, such as parts of the old terminal complete with hangars, and even the runway can still be recognized even after the alteration. Today, the old airport also serves as a venue for various events, such as music festivals and markets. And finally, Torre De David, also called the Venezuelan skyscraper squatter. At 170 meters high and 45 stories high, Torre De David in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, is the third tallest skyscraper in the country. Construction began in 1990 and was to be a mix of residential and office space located in the center of the heavily urbanized capital. However, just 4 years after work began on the skyscraper, construction was abruptly halted due to the Venezuelan banking crisis. The government immediately took control of the tower. In its unfinished state, the building lacked any of the most basic tools and services necessary for a building like Torre De David to function. There was no electricity, no running water, no windows, and in some places the walls weren't even complete. In 2001, the Venezuelan government even attempted to put the building up for auction. From the other facilities in the complex, however, no one was interested in purchasing the dilapidated and incomplete building. At the same time as all this was happening, the entire city of Caracas was suffering from a housing shortage that left hundreds of thousands of people homeless. For this reason, the residents of Caracas quickly made their way to the buildings inside the complex and occupied them. Considering that the tall skyscraper had been abandoned for over a decade, the complex was inhabited by as many as 200 homeless families looking for their own place. By some estimates, about 40% of the city's homeless lived in the tower. Residents of the towers soon began creating their own municipal installations with an improvised system of aqueducts serving residents up to the 22nd floor with running water. Motorcycles were even used to taxi residents and visitors between the 1st and 10th floors through a series of winding paths and ramps. By 2011, the population of Torre De David had grown to 2,500 people, and at one point it even reached around 5,000 individuals. In 2014, after careful planning and discussions with the residents of the towers, the Venezuelan government launched a new program to relocate hundreds of families from Torre De David to new government-provided homes in a new town south of the capital. As of 2015, it was reported that all residents of the building were successfully relocated to their new homes in Cuba. There has been a lot of talk about Torre De David's possible future. Some have proposed the complete demolition of the tower, while others are pushing for affordable housing within the complex. Back in 2018, the building even suffered from an earthquake that partially collapsed the top 5 floors of the tower. Thus, to this day, the tower remains unfinished and derelict while serving as a temporary emergency relief center. What do you think about these abandoned mega projects? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.